welcome to this episode of The Daily. My name is Brendan Malone. Well, one of the interesting phenomenons that's been happening during this election cycle is that there's been a group of people who are small, I think, but very vocal, who have been saying that they think that Ted Cruz would have been a far better presidential candidate for the Republican Party and that he would have beaten Hillary Clinton hands down. I disagree. I don't think that's true at all. And I think two factors that they are forgetting here that they're not considering is, number one, I think what they're doing is they are getting a false positive here because they are comparing Cruz to a loud, brash and obnoxious candidate like Donald Trump. And they think that because Ted Cruz is not those things, that somehow he is a more appealing and a more likable sort of candidate. But I think if you take Trump out of the equation, pretend he was never a factor, he never existed, he never ran in this race at all. If Ted Cruz was there by himself, I don't think he is actually as popular or as electable as people think he is. They're just assuming that because they're comparing him to someone that they find really, really infuriating. The other thing that I think is a factor here is that I don't think Ted Cruz has what it takes, that little bit of X factor that you need to actually win an election under the current circumstances that we are living out in the modern world. I think what he's missing is that little bit of X factor, that bit of charisma that enables him to convince undecided voters to actually put their trust in him. Not to vote for him because they're desperate, because anybody could beat anybody else if the majority were desperate enough not to have that other person become president, right? But if he was standing in a race where he was trying to stand on his own merits, not based on fear and desperation, I'm not convinced he's got that X factor to swing voters, undecided voters. And what I mean by that is that so often I've looked at videos that friends of mine who are big fans of Ted Cruz have posted online, and they've said, look, watch this video. Ted Cruz is absolutely destroying this guy's argument, or Ted Cruz absolutely demolishes, or Ted Cruz explains exactly why this is important. And you sit down to watch this video of Ted Cruz talking on the candidate trail or talking on a TV show or talking to a reporter. And by the way, I'm someone who's a communicator. So what I'm looking for is good communication. And I'm not even necessarily looking to agree with what he's saying, but I'm looking for someone to communicate well and substantially so that it's very clear what he's saying and why it's important and why I should get on board with what he's saying. But I find with Ted Cruz, you just don't have that experience. He talks in a way that doesn't quite really engage you. He talks in a way that doesn't really brim with passion. He talks in a way where often by the end of his 3, 4, 5 minutes, however long it's been, you've forgotten the points he was trying to make. You've forgotten where he started. He's not clear and concise. Now, you can get upset about that and say, oh, but that's the modern media and they don't allow us to really unpack issues and spend lots of time focusing on them like we should do. And yeah, I agree we should be doing more. But the problem is that's the environment you've got to work in. And if you, as an election cycle candidate, can't actually work in that environment, you really aren't going to be that electable. And I just don't think Cruz has that X factor that you need. Someone who I think does have it is Marco Rubio. And I think Marco Rubio is the contender, is the Republican candidate of the future. I say that because I think Marco Rubio is kind of like the Republican version of JFK. He's this young, good-looking guy who has this sort of passion and vibrancy to him. Even though he's been part of the Republican establishment for a while now, or for a few years at least, he doesn't feel too establishment. There's a sort of freshness to him and a bit of passion there. He doesn't feel like some old white dude who's lecturing to you. No, I know he's not some old white dude, but the point is that often that's how Republican candidates have come across. But he doesn't feel like that at all. He feels like he is engaging and there's ideas and there's passion and there's something here that we could get on board with. He has that charisma. I thought he was going to do better this time around, but what this election cycle has shown is that he lacked experience. However, experience is something that you can grow in and you can garner along the way, and I think he will do that. The other thing I've noticed is that he was, I think, to his credit, was pretty quiet around the whole nomination, the official nomination of Trump. I think Cruz let himself down a little bit there. He really did grandstand a little bit there, and I think it was obvious that he was doing a little bit of grandstanding. I think he took a gamble. I think he thought, well, if I put myself out here now and Donald Trump fails, there's a good chance I could be the front-runner nominee next time around. He thought about himself and he put himself out there, and I don't think it came off. Rubio has been a lot more quiet, and that sort of presents a graciousness, a civility that I think could work in his favour going forward. So all in all, I don't think Cruz is actually the electable candidate. I just don't think he has that X factor. He's the sort of candidate where if you're on board, you like him. But if you're not already on board, I don't think you're going to be convinced by him. And often you find yourself sort of going, yeah, it sort of feels a little bit like I'm not getting the whole story here just because of the way that he communicates. Love to hear your thoughts though. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow on The Daily.